What's going on, everyone? Welcome back to the channel. Time's moving by here pretty quickly as it's already the middle of February and we have obviously yet to complete putting our car back together for the year. I wouldn't say that we're too far behind from where we need to be because all we need to do is bolt all the suspension back on and throw the body back on it, and it's pretty much good to go from that point. But May will be here before we realize, and I don't want to get caught up scrambling to put the car back together last minute just to make sure we make it to our first race. So today I want to go through and put the rest of our suspension back on the car, replace all the radius rods that we had previously measured out, and keep the old ones off to the side so that we can mark them and make sure that we have them ready as spares. Of course, we're still missing two of our shocks as we've only got our left side shocks here with us. We have not received an update from our dealer yet, but we'll see them here pretty soon. So we'll ask them when we go up there and hopefully we get those shocks here in time. If not, we do have to unfortunately buy new ones, but we're gonna hope that we can get them back here in time so that we can get the car completely back together. Now we can't let the lack of shocks get in the way of us putting our car back together. So right now we're going to go ahead and start piecing our left front here together again. We got our upper control arm bolted to the shock tower and the radius rod that is substituting our shock bolted onto the lower. And then we're going to go ahead and bolt in our lower control arm to the chassis as well as the cross member. And here we're just going to make sure that our upper radius rod here lines up right and is able to allow a new bolt to go in through the clevis and the arm. And that's pretty much all we need to do right now for our left front. So we'll go ahead and move over to our right front now and do the exact same thing. Get our upper control arm bolted in, get the radius rod substituting out our shock bolted on, and then get both sides of the lower control arm bolted in. And then of course, once we have those bolted in, get this last radius rod bolted in and make sure everything fits. So we've pretty much got both sides of our front suspension bolted back on now, with the exception of the radius rods that we connect to our steering rack. Obviously, we will go through and put those back on here shortly, but for now, I do want to focus on replacing the rest of our radius rods back here. Now we do have our radius rods already pre-measured out to what they were before, as well as the lock nuts tightened up quite a bit. So now all we need to do is just swap out the two rear trailing arms, the upper link arm, as well as the panhard bar. And just like that, we've now finished up bolting all of our new radius rods and heims onto the car. with the exception of the upper and lower control arms on both the fronts. We decided to forego replacing those heims and control arms because they do still appear to be good to us. They're still straight and all the heims on them still move fairly freely. All of our ball joints are still good right now, so we decided to leave those alone as well. Obviously, we still have to put the 2 radius rods for our steering rack on, but we are gonna wait a little bit longer because I do still want to take a look at our steering rack and make sure everything's still good on the inside of it. Now, truthfully, we probably didn't have to replace every single rod and heim on the car, but given that we had no idea how long the heims had been on the car, and a handful of them were bad, but all of the radius rods were completely straight, so we realistically only had to replace a couple of heims, but we decided to replace it with a full kit because we decided to have a full set of spares ready to go at the track at all times. And knowing that the spares we had from the old car didn't necessarily match up with the measurements we have here, and I know that they're simple to change over, but I think it's more peace of mind to just have everything that was on the car ready to go in case we need it. Now, all of our old rods here were kind of a hodgepodge of different sets of heims and different types of radius rods. So we're definitely going to keep these on hand as our spares at the track, and we have them obviously labeled right now with tape. And all of the new ones right now were measured out exactly to those lengths and just bolted onto the car. We haven't changed anything yet. Obviously, whenever we go through and set up the car, we'll double check to make sure our rear end is square, double check our offset back there, check the pinion angle, make sure our camber, caster, and toe up here is all good, and realistically, that's all we need to check for the new radius rods. Obviously, we're still waiting on our shocks to get back from AFCO, but once we get those back, we'll be able to get the car on the ground and start playing with our ride heights as well, start scaling the car, and get everything set up for our race season. We're finally getting this car put back together at a decent pace, and now that we have our front suspension back together, we can start pulling our rotor off, pull the hub off, and take a look at the bearings, see if they need to be replaced. If not, we can clean them out and re-grease them, pack everything up nice and tight, and then the front end should be finished with, and all we have to do is hang the body again, fix whatever fiberglass needs to be fixed, maybe possibly repaint it, get some new vinyl thrown on there, and then we're pretty much looking at a complete car. So our season's definitely arriving a lot faster than we're expecting, but I think that we'll be in a good spot by the time it gets here. I hope you guys enjoyed today's video. I appreciate you guys watching, and I hope to catch you in the next one.